Okay, good afternoon. And once again, I'm here with Marilyn Schlossbach, restaurateur, humanitarian chairwoman for the New Jersey Restaurant Association. Good morning. Good afternoon, Marilyn. How you doing? How are you? How's your family?
My family is great. It's a semi-sunny day at the Ocean Avenue. If you see it behind me, I don't know if you can see outside there, but
I see it. Yeah.
I have a great view, so I'm okay.
Believe it or not, it's been over a year since I conducted my first interview with you when this pandemic first started. So let's get right to it. How has your business enterprises fared over the past 12 months?
Well, we made it. We're still here. Every once in a while, I have to go like this to say, anybody who is still operating after all this, take a moment, give yourself a pat on the back and a big hug, because it's been a rough ride.
Yeah, it has. So you had a few restaurants. Have you had to shut any down permanently, or did you keep them all going?
We shut down some, not permanently. We're opening everything right now as of this week.
Everything's opening up. Okay.
Yeah. We had to mostly condense for, in the beginning, lack of customers, and now lack of staff.
So you still have the 3 restaurants in Asbury Park and the Langosta Lounge in Asbury, and then in Long Branch you have the Whitechapel project. Are those the ones you work with?
Yeah, we have Whitechapel and Asbury. We have Langosta, Pop's Garage, the Asbury Park Yacht Club, and the Saltwater Market, which is our retail. And then in Normandy Beach, we have Teeny's Fish House, which used to be the Labrador Lounge.
Okay.
We owned it then, and now we own it again. So we're scheduled to open that in a couple weeks for the season, and then we'll be full swing.
Well, we all know that our governor is holding firm to his 50% indoor occupancy for dining, and with no seating at the bars. Can all of these restaurants of yours make money under those restrictions?
Well, I mean, the biggest predicament that we're in right now is that we actually have pulled tables out even on the 50% because we don't have enough staff. And I'm hearing that it's industry-wide, that a lot of people, probably combined, either are scared to work in restaurants, aren't vaccinated yet, or are on unemployment, and they're getting a nice little chunk of change not to work.
And there's summertime's coming upon them, and they're looking maybe to get another summer off, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't blame them, but, it's not a real wise decision to make unless they're going to throw another package together in September when unemployment ends, because we're all going to be laying whatever staff we have off anyway for the winter. So, and there's a lot of money to be made this summer. Everybody is complaining about staff. Everybody wants to get out. People are getting vaccinated. They're feeling safer. They're out and about. We don't have a problem with the capacity, because honestly, I pulled this week, we had to shut down half of our dining rooms because we didn't have the staff. So
how about you mentioned the vaccination, and New Jersey's statistics are pretty high of how many residents have been vaccinated. Wouldn't that you think be logical to open up at least the seating at the bars, if not even to go more than the 50%? A lot of places have very large bars, and the bartenders aren't making any money. That could be another reason why people don't want to work.
Yeah. No, I mean, I've sat somewhere in the middle of this conversation because I'm not a vaccine person. My kids aren't vaccinated of the flu. So I've always had mixed feelings on all of it. But I have been more of a proponent of keeping our industry safe. I have a lot of staff that live with elderly parents or elderly grandparents. I've lost people to COVID. It's not a fun place to be as a business owner or as a human being, to be in that conversation. So I have been okay with the cautious reopening of the business as long as we get funding. I've said that from March of 2020 until today. If you want us to be closed, then you have to help us stay closed. And that means we need money. And that means the money goes into the pocket of the root of the tree, which is the ownership, and trickles out to the employee, not in the employee's pocket so the owners don't have staff. And, you know, if I had my bar open this weekend, I don't know if my staff would have made it to Monday. I mean, Sunday we were talking about trying to open more this week, and the conversation was, I don't want to work. I'm shot. I did 4 doubles in a row. I mean, I have a pavilion that normally has 100 employees coming online right now. I don't even have 25 full-time people. I have 7 waiters working for me. That's combined bartender waiters in a 14,000 square foot space. And I'm not the only one. I mean, I'm seeing crazy ads, people throwing money at staff to get people to work for them. And the problem is, once you give somebody $20 an hour to be a busser, how are you going to go back from that? Once you give somebody extra cash or pay them under the table, how do you go back from that? So how is the industry going to transform itself? You know, the only other option I can see is more technology and less people.
You had mentioned that in our last conversation that you had beginning to employ self-ordering by the customers through the iPhone, or maybe even kiosks at each of the tables.
Yeah, we're putting a whole new POS system in so that we can go to a cloud-based system that has QR codes that the customer can order their own food and drinks. I don't know what else to do. You know, we're already getting bashed on social media, on Yelp, for not having great service, because on Easter Sunday, I had 5 waiters working, and the volume of money we did that day, we should have had 10 waiters on, at least. So, you know, unless you have time to talk to every guest and tell them what's going on, you're already compromised. You have a mask on. It's hard to talk to people anyway. It's not a fun experience for the employee, never mind the guest. You know, most of my staff this week did a 50-hour week in 3 days.
Wow.
And they want the money, but they're also like, I'm tired. I can't, how are we going to keep this up if it's not even May and people are working like this?
Yeah, you got to appreciate that, because, you know, it's a tough enough business as it is to work in, and now working with maybe 25 to 35% of your full staff, it's even got to be tougher for your workers there.
Yeah.
So,
And, you know, we're interviewing like crazy, but half the time the people come, they love the place, and somebody offers them more money, you know, and yeah, we got PPP, but if I throw it all away on a limited amount of staff, then when it runs out, I'm going to be totally screwed. So, you know, I'll take any advice from anybody who has come up with any solutions to this problem. I'm hearing it from every single operator I know in the state, that they cannot get staff.
and then you know, the warmer months are coming right around the corner, and now you got outdoor. You have a nice outdoor at Asbury on the boardwalk, and you got a big outdoor in Long Branch, and then you're going to need more staff to service those areas.
Yeah, I mean, we have 12,000 square foot of outdoor space in Long Branch, and I have 1 bartender and 2 servers on staff there. No bussers, 1 host, 1 runner. I mean, how are we going to do this? You know, and it sucks because, you know, we want to come back. We want to make the money. We want to start increasing our revenue and get back on our feet. All of us have taken on additional debt and compromised our credit to keep going. But without staff, how can we do it? I mean, Asbury's not limiting beach badges this year. So the beach is going to be crowded, and people are going to want to go out, and we want them to come, but I don't want them to come and not have an experience that they enjoy.
Yeah.
So I don't know what to do. We're really
Well, it's difficult when the government has helped the restaurant industry with funding, but on the other hand, they've hurt them with this unemployment benefits. I mean, you can't keep giving, in my opinion anyhow, you can't keep giving money to people to stay home and not work, you know?
Well, they should have come up with a better, more out of the box plan for this stimulus for people. I get it. There are some people that really need that $300 to feed their kids. And there are other people who are going to spend that $300 drinking in my bar and not working. And I don't blame them, honestly. If you know you're going to get 600 a week to take the summer off and you can afford to do that, I wish I could do that. I'd rather be at the beach surfing every day than running around like a crazy person. But there's no incentive for people to go back to work. They could have done something different. They could have offered it for a longer period of time and given people a stipend to go back to work, or given it to us to give to them. I don't know, but they should have put some heads in the room and come up with a better plan here, or they should change it right now before we're all closed up because we can't staff.
It is a problem. I've heard it from a lot of clients, that they can't get any help, and it's not going to get easier going forward, especially with the summertime coming. This is not a good time of year to ask people to come into work, So hopefully, that the ones that don't go back to work, it's really short-term thinking, because I don't know what they're going to do when the unemployment runs out. They're going to be, they'll be scurrying for jobs. So.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, they originally talked about ending that stimulus in the beginning of the season, which would have been great, and then let everybody go back on in the fall. And it's not just the shore. I mean, you've got all these tourist places in the mountains, in the lakes, out by the Delaware River. People want to get out into mountain nature too. It's not just the beach,
Right.
Places that are suffering.
Right.
And I mean, there's nothing you can do. We're not open every day in any of our venues because I don't have staff.
Well, I was going to ask you what your biggest problem that you were facing. So let's put the staff as number one. Over the past year, what has been your biggest challenge, either personally or business-wise, to get from last March, where the shutdowns were mandated, to where we are now in April of 2021?
Well, I mean, I think anxiety and fear were probably the number one hurdles to deal with. If I look back on the last year and all the anxiety I had about PPP first round, PPP second round, grants, funding, banking relationships, dealing with all your personal credit, then dealing with, I have 2 kids who were virtually schooling, dealing with that and trying to make sure they don't feel all your anxiety. I mean, I can't imagine over the next 10 years, we're not going to see a shift in mental and physical health because of not COVID, the virus, but COVID, the mental anxiety and stress that came out of this.
Yeah. No,
I feel it physically, for sure.
and all the kids too, no social interaction in school, and that's going to affect us going forward in the next 10 years as they grow up and become teenagers and young adults as well.
Well, I think they'll be stronger for it. I mean, when you get to our age, it's a little more precarious to keep your health in order. I mean, I used to be that person who could handle 10 million things coming at me all day long. And now the anxiety level is through the roof.
So I guess, something you have mentioned a couple of times that, you had were worried about getting the funding from the government, the PPP 1 and 2, the grants. I don't know if you got any of the AIDL loans, but that, I guess that's been a lifeblood for the restaurant industry to get them from last March to today. Without that, there would be many places that would be shuttered and closed.
Yeah, I mean, every little bit of money that came through, whether it was $1,000, $5,000, $10,000 PPP money, was much appreciated, because it was sometimes getting me to tomorrow, not to next week, but just covering something in the billing cycle for the next day. The problem is that when you get to these programs, including the one they're working on right now with the SBA, the execution of them is so long-winded that it's sometimes hard to hold on through that. And that's why places have closed, or the uncertainty as to whether you're going to get it. Or even with the first round of PPP, I didn't want to take a second round till I knew the first one was forgiven, because God forbid I had to pay all this money back.
Right. Did you ever receive any non-government? I know you had applied for that DoorDash grant, or did you ever receive anything from outside of the government, any grants? Or
we got DoorDash in one of our locations, not in both. And we had a very generous couple who come to Langosta donate twice over the last year to the staff for a party and some staff promo and sweatshirts and things, and then to our music program to keep the music going. And that was brought me to tears. Every time I see them, I cry, because I just can't believe how generous they were. I'm crying now. They're not wealthy people. They just really love us and wanted us to keep giving them the pleasure they have of coming here and listening to music. So that was really special. We applied for the bar stool. We applied for a lot of things, the vans. We didn't get any of them. I mean, the perception of me and my company is that we have a lot, when I'm one woman owning all this, and one woman with one wonderful general manager operating all this. We don't have a large team. We don't have any money. We don't have any funding. You've dealt with me in real estate deals. I come trying to steal from Peter to pay Paul to get stuff done. I'm just a scrapper. I've never been funded. I've never had any backing behind me to a big level that you would think. So the perception of us is that we have a lot, but we really don't. We're living hand to mouth. We're just really aggressive at moving forward, and we do whatever it takes to keep going. And we have a great core group of people, 7 or 8 of them that want us to keep moving forward, and they do whatever they can to help us. And that's tiring. I look at some of these other places and I'm like, oh my God, I wish I had that wealthy lawyer who supported me unconditionally, or that Vegas money that could buy me new chairs. It's just, I'm constantly trying to maneuver things to keep going, and I'm just getting too old for it.
It's been difficult. I've like you said, we've dealt with each other over the past, 12 or 15 years, and it's been difficult. I remember when you first started down in the used to be's all the way in Bricktown there on Route 88, right? There's a lot of other people that you had mentioned about your couple that had donated for music and everything. But you think about that whole sector, all the musicians and the entertainers, right? They really live from day to day, week to week too, and they're all out of business, and most of them still aren't back in business.
Yeah. That's why we kept music going, honestly, to keep them. It's not only a money thing for creative people. I mean, I'm an artist. My husband's an artist. We need that passion to keep going. It's not just the money. I would take the passion over the money any day. I mean, you can pay me all day long, but if my heart's not in it, it doesn't matter to me. And I feel that musicians, artists are like that. And to be able to let them keep playing in a safe environment that was controlled and socially distanced and playing by the rules was really great. And we're really one of the only places that did that throughout all this. We didn't make any money on it. We were having $30,000 nights. Now we're having $2,500 nights because of the restrictions and the no bar. But as long as we cover the cost and the musicians get to play, it makes people feel good. And I think for me, that's been the most important thing to hold on to in this. It's really hard to feel good when you're going through this. And, we have the restaurant in Normandy. the predicament there was we got no funding because we owned it. We leased it for 2 years in the middle of this and got it back, but we still owned it the whole time. We still supported the tenant there financially. We still owned the building, but because it wasn't the same corporation, we got nothing. So that was like, talk about scrapping something together, a business in COVID, and making it survive. That was one of the toughest. So, you know, everybody's got their different predicament in all this. Even the people with money. I have a lot of friends who have a lot of money and have big businesses, and they still have the same problems. They still, the event venues that had to totally shut down and give all those deposits back, and all the brides who, we did a wedding this past week. It was the third attempt to have a wedding, you know, and finally they got to pull the trigger, and they were so excited to have their family and friends there, but it took them a year to get that done. You know, it's just, looking back on all this, I'm still feel like I'm in some surreal movie that we're still living in COVID over a year later.
Yep. Yeah.
You know, in March we were like, oh, in a month we'll all be back and this will be fine. And
Didn't work out that way. That's
crazy.
You mentioned that. You mentioned some of the social changes we should keep our eye on over the next 10 years. What about as far as the restaurant business itself? It's got to be changed going forward. It can't be the same as it was pre-COVID, even coming out of this and getting back to normal. What do you see? What do you think the restaurant landscape is going to look like going forward after COVID's over, whenever that might be?
You know, we said the same thing in Sandy when everybody was scared to buy on the ocean or live near the ocean or have a business near the ocean. The funny thing about people in general, especially Americans, is we move on to the next thing and forget about the last thing so quickly. If we can get a handle on this virus and it's physically not going on and on like this for 3 more years, say next year everybody is vaccinated or herd immunity, whatever happens for them, people are always going to want to go to restaurants. People are always going to want to own restaurants or open restaurants. Chefs are always going to want to cook food, and people are always going to want to socialize. I don't think the landscape is going to look all that different. Unfortunately, I think because of what's happening right now in the industry with staffing, technology is going to move in through a vortex and probably take over a lot of operations that were done by people. And the next generation of our industry is going to be more tech driven. There'll be more jobs in tech to create that, but less jobs in the interaction with people. And for me, I'm old school. I like this business because I like to give people entertainment and I like the social aspect of it. Even if I'm not the one communicating that, I like the interaction with my staff, with the world as it pertains to human beings. I don't know that I want to be in the tech version of restaurants, honestly.
That's a good point. You know, that's a good point. You know, that's why people gather and flock to restaurants. They like the social aspect of it. They like interacting with the staff, with the bartenders. You know, they like being out with other people. They enjoy, you know, the being feeling a little bit different than when you're sitting at home yourself, especially in this past year. I mean, this is my last question for you. We've really been living in a black hole, if you will, for the past 12 months. And, you know, there is a saying that, you know, when anything bad happens, something good always comes out of it. What positive have you found in this pandemic world that we live in, or can think of, that you could share with us as we finish up this interview today?
This is just for me, and maybe it's because I have seen and done a lot in my career. I don't want so much anymore. I don't need to have 20 restaurants. I'm learning how to control my wantitis when it comes to new projects. which are always exciting to entrepreneurs. But I'm learning to think about what that looks like from an execution standpoint for the long haul and back out of things over the next 5 to 10 years and maybe do another project. But I've gravitated to more of who I am in the core, the sustainability piece of me, the wanting to get in touch with the earth and the environment more and be in the ocean and maybe do a retreat center with culinary and surf or something that's more of the lifestyle that I want to retire to than the one I've been longing for. And so that means I'm going to have to get out of the US a little bit because COVID has also increased exponentially the value of real estate in this area, probably in the whole country, as people get out of cities. And I don't want to open a restaurant in the city, so I might have to go to the jungle somewhere.
That's the last conversation. You told me I had to find you a building on a farm with a liquor license. That's where you can retreat to. Well, always good speaking to you, getting your insight. I thank you for your time. I know you're really busy, and let's one day at a time, Marilyn. We just keep going one day at a time. Keep the faith. That's it.
Tell those diners to be patient when they go out because we are people compromised.
All right. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks for your time.
You too. Take care.